Thousands of people were infected by contaminated NHS blood in the 1970s and 80s. Now their MPs are demanding justice.
They do want to see some form of inquiry. They do want to see a clear apology. And there is a crying need now for root and branch reform of the structures that have been put in place to help them.
The Ogmore MP Hugh Irranca-Davies speaking in the Commons this week. We'll hear the story of one South Wales man infected with HIV and hepatitis and speak to the Newport East MP Jessica Morden about those calls for a public inquiry. Well, some of the heartbreaking stories of men, women and children infected by contaminated NHS blood in the 1970s and 80s were heard in the Commons this week. MPs are calling for a further review into how thousands of people became infected by imported blood products and the estimated 1,800 deaths that resulted. Victims want a full-scale inquiry, compensation and a public apology. Well, a number of Welsh MPs spoke of cases in their own constituencies, including the Ogmore MP Hugh Irranca-Davies, who described the case of a man with haemophilia who contracted the HIV virus and hepatitis as a result of receiving contaminated blood. Well, as well as significant physical health issues, it's affected his mental health, his marriage, his children and his ability to work. Here's Hugh Irranca-Davies speaking the anonymous words of his constituent and his wife.
We were called into the consultant's office at the hospital. My future wife was pregnant and we were strongly advised to have a termination. However, the consultant was not specific about the reasons why, other than the possibility of our child either having or carrying haemophilia, so we refused. Our son was born and they wanted to take a blood test from him. It was after this they told us of my husband's HIV infection. At this early stage they had no idea what it entailed.
Well, mercifully, the couple's son was found to be clear of HIV. But Mr Irranca-Davies explained to MPs how even joining a support group led to further pain and anguish.
We began attending meetings with the group and felt better for the support, but sadly the participants began dying at an alarming rate and it just made the situation worse. My brother, who also had haemophilia and HIV, passed away. Prior to this, we'd undergone clinical trials at the hospital, and because we were brothers, he was given the placebo. The guilt I felt because I was taking the actual product and had survived was indescribable.
Well, he began treatment for hepatitis B, but Mr Irranca-Davies told the Commons that presented more challenges.
I wasn't in a very good place at this time, and my wife and I came close to separation. The treatment reacted with my HIV drugs, and I ended up in high dependency with pancreatitis. Following this, my wife had to sell a business, and I was ill and unable to cope at home without significant help.
Mr Irranca-Davies said the family, who faced decades of debt and hardship, were simply seeking the support they need and deserve.
What my constituents are asking for, as has been repeated by so many stories today, is not a begging bowl that they have to go to in complex situations and prove that they are worthy, but it is actually an entitlement, not a begging bowl. They do want to see some form of inquiry. They do want to see a clear apology. And there is a crying need now for root and branch reform of the structures that have been put in place to help them.
Well, the Newport East Labour MP Jessica Morden also spoke in that debate. She joins me now. Good morning.
Good morning.
I listened to the whole of that debate, and I'd urge anyone who's cynical about politics to do the same, because it was incredibly moving from all sides of the House. And yet there seemed to be a deep frustration there as well, that after decades we still haven't come to terms with this problem.
No, indeed, you're quite right. And they were incredibly... I think Alistair Burt, the former Tory minister who led the debate, put it very well when he said at the end, as he closed the debate, that the words and the memorable phrases that people will remember from that debate will be from the victims themselves. And they were really moving accounts of that given in the House of Commons. And it has just taken far, far too long. I mean, there were thousands of people infected with hepatitis C and HIV from blood products, which were effectively given to them by the state. And it's just taken just decades to get anywhere with this.
And I mean, it was striking. Andy Burnham, the Shadow Secretary of State for Health, former Secretary of State for Health, spoke, and he described how he, as a minister, had tried to wrestle with this problem, and he described, I don't know what we would say, inertia from the Department of Health, that there seemed to be almost a resistance to getting it sorted.
I think there'd been numerous delays over there. In the last Parliament, there was the Archer Review, which was kind of funded by donations, really, review, and there was a delay in terms of getting to it and that. But it does also kind of pinpoint the difficulties of getting to the bottom of these historic injustices, really. I mean, one of the other things that was said at the start of the debate was one of the very most moving speeches of this Parliament was when Steve Rotherham, the MP for Liverpool Waltham, got up and read out the 96 names of the victims of the Hillsborough disaster. And and as Alistair Burt said in the debate, if you were to read out the names of the people who died as a result of contaminated blood, there'd be 1,800 plus of those, you know.
People listening to this will be puzzled because they'll say, well, we hear of these big negligence payouts. I mean, clearly there was negligence here. This wasn't the man Hugh Irranca was talking about, who was, I think, 18 when he was infected. It clearly wasn't his fault. It was clearly the fault of the health service. Why hasn't there simply been negligence claims?
I mean, they have in America, and Ireland has actually settled this, but I don't know, really. I don't think any of us know quite why it's taken so long. We are at a point now where after the Archer inquiry, there's now been the Penrose inquiry, which has been set up by the Scottish Government, and that was due to report last March, and that's the first kind of inquiry of its kind by a government in this country. That's been delayed till, I think, the 25th of March this year, and that yet gives another delay, which means that it's really hard to sort this out in this Parliament. And these people, these victims, they really need this apology, a proper compensation package and a proper review of what happened, and it just gets drawn on and drawn on. One of the things that I really hope out of that debate is when you sit in the chamber and you tell those stories with the words that people have asked you to say, and you look up at the victims who are sat in the gallery, and you're very aware of the people who are listening at home, and you think, I just hope those people don't have to keep coming back. I hope that's the last time they actually have to listen to that debate. And when we get the Penrose inquiry and when the UK government responds to that, then it's a chance to put this to bed once and for all.
Do you think it will be put to bed once and for all? I mean, it seemed to me that was the will of the House of Commons, if you like, that everyone on all sides felt it should, but there yet was a feeling we haven't got it right yet. Are we going to get it right this time?
I mean, that was a cross-party debate. There's a cross-party campaign, and there's lots of support to get it resolved. And I do feel, and it was said at the end of the debate, that there is now a shift. And Alistair Burt, who's, as I mentioned earlier, the former minister, has been working quite closely with Number 10. And what we want really is this full apology, which is really important for the Smith family in my constituency, and Lynn Ashcroft, the life of Bill Dumbelton, who also died. That's really important, but also, you know, that's hugely important to get to the bottom of what happened. Also a review, but also access for treatments for people who are living now, and a proper compensation package. And I hope for whoever's elected, whatever MP, whatever party, whichever constituency in Wales, that if it's not possible to sort out the end of this Parliament now, that at the beginning of the next Parliament we grasp that opportunity and get it done.
Jessica Morden.